to 5280 Film Room. We're a Colorado sports podcast by fans for fans. I'm Alyssa.
I'm Gideon.
I'm Miles.
And I'm Jordan.
And today we're going to talk a little Rockies and Broncos, kicking it off with the Rockies. What do we know about Seung-hwan Oh?
So Seung-hwan Oh was the blockbuster trade for the Rockies.
Woo woo.
Amazing. I had never heard of him until they made the trade.
Nice.
But
and the Googling began.
Yeah. And of course we traded with the Blue Jays like we always do. That's who we traded Tulowitzki to. Seems like anytime the Rockies make a trade, it's with the Blue Jays. But I looked him up because I'd never heard of him, and he's 36 years old, which is a little concerning, but his stats are pretty amazing. He's pitched 3 years in the MLB, 11 years in South Korean baseball. And his overall career ERA is 2.03, which is fantastic.
It's pretty impressive no matter where you're playing, whether it's in the MLB,
Absolutely.
college, South Korea. Like, if you're pitching that well, it means you're doing something right.
Oh, yeah. Because baseball, it's a worldwide sport.
Right.
A lot of people don't realize that, but it's a really good international sport. Like over in Japan, like they take baseball very seriously, probably as serious as we take the MLB. And his MLB ERA over the last 3 years is 2.81. This year it's 2.68, and his contract goes through next year with a team option. So it's not like he's a rental. So we get him for this year and next year if we want to keep him. So I like the trade because we gave up two minor leaguers, two guys who have been pretty good in AAA. They're two infielders, two guys I've never heard of before, but I mean we're getting a guy that can help us right now.
Without disrupting the team that we already have that's doing well.
Is he a starting pitcher or a relief pitcher?
So I think he's going to be the seventh inning guy. So I think it's going to be... So like tonight, Kyle Freeland's pitching. We're watching the Rockies game, as always, while we podcast. So Seung-hwan Oh, he's not dressed tonight. His first official dress night will be tomorrow, so he won't play tonight. But ideally, he'll come in the seventh inning. Ottavino will come in the eighth, and Wade Davis will pitch the ninth inning. And the biggest gap in our bullpen has been the seventh inning guy. So we've got a guy that can hopefully fill that role. And he's proven it. He's been a great reliever this year.
Has he always been a reliever? Has that kind of been his position throughout his entire career?
Yes. So even in South Korea, he was a reliever. And
so I feel like even though he's 36, it's like reverse dog years if you're only a relief pitcher and you're doing 1 inning a game as opposed to being like a starting pitcher and doing 5 or 6. I feel like his age is less of a factor if he's always been in that position, showing up, kicking butt, 1 inning a game. That makes me feel not worried at all about his age.
Oh, definitely.
But as a relief pitcher, I mean, you could pitch 4 or 5 nights in a week. As a starting pitcher, you're only going to pitch 1 night a week.
That's true.
It's like the innings add up. Like if you pitch 1 inning 4 times a week, you still pitch 4 innings that week. And as a starter, if you pitch 5 innings in 1 start, that's 5 innings in a week. So it still kind of equals out.
Well, I'm looking at his pitch count for the year right now, and he's only at 809 pitches. So when he's on the field, he's doing quick work of whoever he's facing at the plate. So at this point, I mean, how many games of typical starting pitchers pitched at this point? Probably 9 or 10 games?
It'd be more than that. So you got 5... So many games have the Rockies played this year? Probably like 110, I would guess.
I will find out for sure.
You so got 5 starting pitchers, so probably like
12
20
games.
20
games
I would guess
each?
20 games, yeah.
Okay. But on a typical start, you're definitely pitching upwards of 100 pitches.
Mm-hmm.
So if you compare that pitch count with starting pitchers, O has definitely done a good job at mitigating the extent of his arm, or the use of his arm.
That's a good point. Yeah. Because, I mean, the threshold for starting pitchers these days is about 100 pitches.
Right.
A lot of them don't get to that point. If they have a bad, third inning or bad second inning, they might only pitch 50 pitches. But
right.
That is a good point. Like, you want your starting pitcher to pitch 100 pitches. If they get to that point, then that means they're having a good game. But yeah, having a reliever that gets the job done quickly, like if he can have an inning where he only pitches 10 pitches, that means he only faced 3 batters and only threw, 3 pitches to each one.
Right.
So having O with us now, and obviously tomorrow will be in the lineup, is there any other relief pitchers who will now be sent down to the minors?
That's a good question. I know Chris Russin, I think he recently got put on the DL, so I feel like Seung-hwan Oh will take his place.
Fill the spot.
Okay.
Yeah, and Chris Russin, he's had a pretty bad season. He was really good last year, but he's our long reliever, so he may get sent down to the minors after he gets off the DL. So if I had to say, I would say Seung-hwan Oh would take his spot. For sure he is now, because Chris Russin's on the DL, but when he gets off the DL, I don't really know which way the Rockies are going to go. It might be a position player that goes down. Because you have a 25-man roster, and you can pick whether it's a position player or a pitcher that you want to send down.
I'm happy to see that the Rockies made a move that, from the sounds of it, was smart and strategic and will definitely benefit the team. With the trade deadline approaching on Monday, are there other trades you are dying to see happen, or trades that you think we really need to make happen in order to have a successful rest of the season?
Is DJ still safe? Well, I guess he's on the DL now, huh?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, Jakey D's still out there. Jacob deGrom. I would love to see the Rockies go get him.
Is that realistic?
No. It's not.
No.
Like, the Mets...
You were asking for wishes and dreams, Alyssa.
That's true. That's true. Reach for the stars, y'all.
It's a situation where... So the Mets have been a really bad team. They have 3 really good players. Yoenis Cespedes, who's their left fielder. He's an all-star caliber player. And we just found out that he's going to have season-ending heel surgery. And they have Jacob deGrom and Noah Syndergaard. Those are the 3 players that are consistently good. So they should trade away those guys to build up their capital and actually start building
Go into
a new
rebuilding
team.
mode.
But I feel like they're not going to actually make those moves, which is stupid on the Mets' part. But the Rockies would probably have to give away a lot to get Jacob deGrom. And a couple episodes ago, I recommended trading DJ plus some prospects for deGrom. And DJ is on the DL right now with an oblique injury, and an oblique injury, it could take him out for a week, or it could be 2 months. Like, that's the type of injury that you don't really know.
Did he have the same injury earlier this year, or was that one of our pitchers?
He's been on the DL 3 times this year.
Dang.
I don't know if the previous... I don't remember
Ottavino also had an oblique.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought I was going crazy. I'm like,
We've talked
discussed
about
this.
Yeah. We've discussed oblique.
Yeah, this is his 3rd time on the DL. I don't remember what the last 2 were, but it was only a 10-day DL both times. And he was put on the 10-day DL July 21st, so he's eligible early next week. But whether he's going to be able to play or not, I don't know. And I think that kind of decreases his trade value. Like, we have good second baseman that can take his spot. So I'd like to get value out of DJ because his contract ends this year. And I don't think we can afford to keep Blackmon, DJ, and Arenado. So I'd hate to see DJ leave after the season and not get anything back for him. But I don't think there's any value since he's injured. But to answer your question, I'd like to see Jacob deGrom in a Rockies uniform. But to make that happen, I think we would have to massively overpay because I don't think the Mets will get rid of him.
And at this point, I think that would be a poor decision by the front office to pay too much and kind of reach too far. I'm really happy with this move they made for O. It feels like an intelligent and balanced decision.
It was a good value trade because we get him for next year too.
Right.
So it's not like we just bought him for this year.
We should see his impact the first game he pitches. So
hopefully. 7th inning has been the curse of the Rockies this year.
It'll be exciting to watch a game, and hopefully they don't give up a lead.
Right, and hopefully it will be a mere about 24 hours from now. We're in the bottom of the 6th of today's game, so this time tomorrow we could be getting ready to watch O take the mound.
And I looked up his contract. I didn't write it down, but I think it was like $2.5 million. And we paid Brian Shaw and Jake McGee $9 million a year to be the 7th inning guy. So if we can get a guy for a quarter of the price that's going to do the job that they're supposed to be doing, then it'll be well worth the trade.
With DJ being on the DL, Garrett Hampson has been filling in at his position and looking really good. What do we know about Hampson?
He's fast as fuck.
He's really quick. Yeah.
He's a
Was
quick
that him
little
that
guy.
got the bunt earlier today?
Oh, I didn't see the bunt.
Oh.
I don't know.
Oh,
It
that's
was
about
nice.
right now.
He's the guy that almost hit an inside the park home run 2 nights ago. He probably
That's
could have gotten it,
fantastic.
but the third base coach stopped him.
Yeah, he's got wheels. He is fast.
Yeah, and his defense has been amazing so far. Well, and plus, we have Brendan Rodgers in the minor leagues, so we have 2 second basemen that can play the role.
And he's really young. He's 23 years old.
Yeah.
And it shows. Like, he just looks like he's so fresh. And I know with DJ being put on the DL, it's a little worrisome because he's a great player. And so there's always the concern of, will the level of play be maintained with whoever is filling in? And
Well,
that definitely seemed to be the case.
DJ is the guy that deserves $15 million a year. I don't think the Rockies should pay that after this year, or that the Rockies can afford it. Like, I would love to see him stay. If he were to take a hometown discount and only go for $10 million a year, I'd say sign him up. But he's worth $15 million a year. And plus the fact that we have infielders like Hampson or Brendan Rodgers that could fill his position. Maybe not be as good right away, but guys that have the expectations that they could eventually be as good as him.
It's the life of the game.
Mm-hmm. And he's not, DJ, like, I hate to say it, but DJ's not a glue part of the team. Like, when you think of the glue, you think of Arenado, Story, Blackman, and Cargo.
Yeah.
And I think we got to keep all 4 of those guys if we can. And DJ's just, he's not part of the glue, in my opinion.
Well, and I truly thought he was until seeing Hampson fill in. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
we're doing just fine.
Right.
Momentarily made me sad because I'm such a sap and I really like DJ.
Yeah.
But I've had a blast seeing what Garrett Hampson can do.
It's always a business decision.
Right.
DJ's probably the nicest guy in the world, but it's always about money.
I should never, ever run a professional sports team.
Like, you get whatever you
There'd
want.
be so many tears.
Right? So kind of looking at the big picture, the NL West and especially the wild card standings being taken into consideration as well, now that we're at this point in the season, how do things look for the Rockies as of today?
So the Dodgers are in first place in the NL West. D-backs are a game and a half behind the Dodgers. Rockies are 2 games behind the D-backs. Giants are 5.5 games behind. So the Rockies are within 2 games. And
2.5.
2.5 now? Oh,
2.5.
the Dodgers must have won tonight.
Yes.
It was 2 games earlier. Okay, 2.5.
Sorry.
Good job getting to know.
Live
In the moment,
standings.
stat checks.
So 2.5 games back, which is still within striking distance for sure. And in the wild card, they are 1 game behind. So the Rockies are well within the playoff race. So they should be buyers before the trade deadline. I like the Seung-hwan Oh trade, but they need to make some more moves if they're going to compete with the rest of the National League.
It'll definitely be interesting to see how the addition of O is going to have the effect on the overall standings. I think he's definitely going to be a huge part of why we're able to close out games and start having solid win streaks on a consistent basis rather than trying to, take a series 2-1. Like, let's start trying to sweep people left and right throughout the week. I know it was only a 2-game series, but we were right there to sweep in the Astros. And went into extra innings and just completely fell apart.
Crumbled.
That was such a good series.
But
though. Against the World Series champs, like that was an amazing.
The Rockies needed that extra something, and hopefully O is that something and can put us back into, well, at the top of the division, I guess.
Well, in that second game against the Astros, I was just incredibly pleased to see them figure out how to close it out before letting it sneak into extra innings again, because that was our doom the first game against the Astros. Because Wade Davis pitched the ninth and did a great job.
Got 3 up, 3 down.
And then the 10th just absolutely crumbled. And I feel like as a fan watching the game the next night, and we're in the same position, 2-2, I'm going, please do not let this go into an extra inning, because I truly didn't think that if it did, we would have been able to win. But Chuck Nasty had an awesome walk-off home run, his first of his career.
Yeah, and he's 30 years old. That was his first one. That's pretty magical.
I mean, you got to be pretty clutch for those walk-off homers, though.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's pretty rare, for sure.
And we've had a couple big ones just in the last couple weeks between him and Trevor. And those moments are really fun, obviously, to watch as a fan, but I'm sure they have to be invigorating as a member of the team to have that incredible adrenaline rush of having what, like you said,
Game's over.
those are hard to do. And having a couple of those big magical moments happen has to just give the whole team an extra spark.
We're going on SportsCenter.
Yeah. Want to play 2 games like that against the World Series champions? Like those
You
games,
got to be amped, for sure.
Yes.
It's like, it'd be like the Broncos going into overtime against the Eagles. You know? Like, that's a lot different than going into overtime against the Browns.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Like, it's just such a different feeling. The fact that they could have swept the 2-game series. Like, they were right there. But the fact that they took one, like, I'm proud of them for doing that.
I was happy with that.
So it's definitely going to make things interesting moving forward within the division. Now that I'm looking ahead at what we've got coming up for August, we actually have a 4-game series with the Dodgers at home, followed by another 2-game series at Houston. So those are, in my opinion, 6 must-win games for the Rockies.
Oh, yeah.
The
I don't
4
know if
against the
they
Dodgers for the
must-win
division.
games, but must-win
no.
series. If we can
Well,
walk away with
they
both
can't-
series.
Well, it's only 2 games with the Astros, so they'd have
That's
to
true.
sweep the Astros.
Yeah.
And then 4 games at home against some divisional leaders.
Huge. Yeah,
Like,
that'll be huge.
if we can go 4 games up on them,
That'd be
or even
insane.
3 out of 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3 out of 4 would be so good. Remember last week when I said that 25 of their next 28 games are against teams with winning records?
yeah.
And Milesy said that the Pirates might be over 500 by then. But right now they're 3 games over 500.
Nice.
You
Hey,
call
So
it, sir.
it's probably going to be 28 out of 28 over against teams that are over 500.
Just our luck, right?
I know. So far they've looked good though. The Rockies have looked so good.
I think
Like
the
they
challenge,
look like a playoff team.
the challenge of those matchups has the potential to bring out some great play. It's just really going to come down to if they can capitalize on it and continue playing as a really united front. Baseball is such a unique sport in that in a lot of other sports, like you bring in a new guy, like, oh, it's going to take some time for him to get familiar and learn the system and so on and so forth. In baseball, especially as a pitcher, you can show up day one and make an impact.
Mm-hmm.
And then it really
No
comes
playbook
down
to
to
read.
everyone else.
Yep.
Right, exactly. To just continue having that really united goal of conquering every single game. And looking, like you said, looking at least every game as a must-win game. And having that mentality.
Yeah. And I feel like adding O, like the thing the Rockies have been missing is, like, let's say we get to the 7th inning and we have a 5-2 lead. I've never been comfortable with a lead like that.
No.
I think adding someone like O to where, okay, we have a 2 or 3 run lead, we can get through this.
Throw him in
Because
there.
we have a 7th and 8th and a 9th inning guy. We can pitch 3 shutout innings. I think that's the thing.
And
the
ride
Rockies
that
have been
lead
missing.
and not watch it absolutely get blown to smithereens like we
Yeah.
have so many times this season.
I know.
Well, we also got to start
quick.
quicker. I mean, I think our ERA is the worst in the league in the first and 6th innings,
I know.
but we're best in the league in the second.
And then top 10 in the others.
In top 10 in 3, 4, 5.
Right. So
that's-
if we can clean up the first and the 6th, we could be incredibly dominant.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what would, this is kind of weird, but what would you guys think about having the Rockies put in an opener? Like putting in a relief pitcher for the first inning and then putting your
Or
starting
first two.
pitcher in
Ooh.
the second inning.
I think it's weird and I like it.
Right? Because the first
Do
inning has
people
been so
do
bad.
that, though?
It's happened.
The Rays did
before.
that last year, and it sort of worked out.
Similar to like them doing the softball shift. Like a few weeks ago, they put 4 people in the outfield with no shortstop
Yeah.
for a batter, and it's like, well, you're either gonna pop fly or
Yeah.
we're still gonna throw you out.
I mean, I just feel like it's
Creative idea.
definitely high risk, high reward. Like if it works, it could probably
Well,
pay off in a
you're
great way. But
basically
if it doesn't work, that could really put us in a bad position.
You're basically gambling that your starting pitcher is gonna have a good game. If you're throwing your relief pitcher in for the first inning, you're expecting and hoping and praying that your starting pitcher, who's going to be starting in the second inning, is going to at least pitch, 5 innings.
It definitely
Exactly.
puts
That's
additional
the risk.
pressure on that starter.
Because you're essentially not wasting a pitcher, but you're giving up a pitcher that you could use at the end of the game.
But probably ensuring a 0-run first inning.
And that's the idea of a reliever. You pay relievers to give up no runs.
Yeah.
Because their job is to pitch 1 inning. Which our relievers have not done that. But
Yeah.
Looking at you, Wade.
yeah. And Brian and Jake and Chris. All the relievers. Except for Adam. We love you.
Yeah. Way to
That's
heal
just,
up that old week.
the Rays did that last year, and I mean, it worked, and it didn't work. I just think that might be an interesting idea, just because the first inning has been really bad for the Rockies, as you mentioned, Miles.
Well, adding O just adds another reliever. So why not just test it out and try?
Right?
I mean, we're already the worst in the first, so it's the worst that could happen.
I know. It seems like the Rockies do give up 1 run in the first inning. If not 1, then 2.
I think if they went on a 3-game losing streak, it would definitely be something to consider.
Experiment with.
Light a fire a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna change things up. Obviously, what we're doing is not working.
Definitely
for the last
not
couple
maybe
games.
a permanent change,
And,
but
but
It's a change of pace.
switch it up
I
a
mean,
little.
getting into the danger zone is do you guys really want to play in the playoffs because you're not pitching like it?
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely something to consider once the team is in that position. But I think right now, 2.5 games back from the divisional lead, just keep rolling with what we're doing, and hopefully this edition of O is going to be that missing piece that'll allow us to really fight for that first place spot in our division.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, O's been really good this year and really good throughout his career, but pitching at Coors Field is a different story for any pitcher.
Speaking
He's
of,
coming from Toronto too, so
Yeah.
What would you
So-
guys
Yeah,
say as
big
far
difference.
as his over-under here for ERA as a Rocky the rest of the season?
If it can be
I mean,
below,
career he's what, you said 2.03? This season, 2.6?
This season,
2.6 on the season. Yeah.
2.68 in 2018. His career is 2.03 over 14 years.
Yeah. Would you
I
say
would-
over-under 3, or where would you put it at?
I'm gonna say under 2. That's my prediction.
That's ambitious.
Bold.
Right.
Yeah.
If he can be right at 3, that would be a success. That would be a huge success. Because if you're pitching at Coors Field, anything under 4 is really good. Anything under 3.5 is excellent.
Okay.
And since he's already starting out with a 2.68 ERA, if he can end the season with a 3 ERA, I would consider that a huge success, especially pitching in the 7th inning.
we will see moving forward. I want to show some Trevor Story some love. This man's bat hasn't been good or bad. It's just been normal. But
That glove, though.
this dude
That glove,
is stopping nearly everything coming his way. Even Arenado's starting to back off and be like, go for it, man.
Right.
Like, this is all you. And to me, it's really exciting because in Story's rookie year, it was like, all right, this dude can swing. Put up, 26 homers or something?
So,
Yep.
Yeah, and he got injured, too.
Yeah,
Like,
so...
he was on pace to break the record.
Once it kind of went on a decline, it's like, all right, welcome to the pros. You're here. It was kind of like, how good of a player are you? Like, your season was kind of overshadowed by your home runs. Now, what kind of player are you? And it's really cool to see him showing us, one of the best shortstops in the league.
The
And
athleticism he
you guys are lucky.
displays, game in and game out. I mean, it's truly breathtaking.
I have to
you
stretch
catch
after
your breath.
seeing some of his moves.
Watching the way that he is just so incredibly quick with his release, and proving to be kind of the go-to guy. Like, they know they can rely on him to be the person that will come through when we want to initiate a double play, and who, no matter what, will deliver that incredibly fierce pitch to first. With that sweet spin move he's got going on.
Yeah, I mean, he's got power, he's got speed. I mean, so far this year, he's hitting 291, which is awesome. He's got 20 home runs, so he's going to finish with probably over 30 home runs. His fielding percentage is 97.4. So, I mean, he's the total package. I mean, he's got speed, he's got power, he can hit for average. His biggest criticism over the last 2 years was that he couldn't hit for average. And he's
Consistent.
Yeah.
He's got the power.
Right.
But
Oh, yeah.
now he's put it together. Unfortunately, over the last week, I believe, he's only batting 250, which is still good.
I mean, the
if you
league
get
average is 240 this year.
Yeah. I mean, if you get 4 at-bats in a game, you're getting on base. That's good. Probably twice if you're good enough on the plate that they're walking you. So, as long as he's getting on base and he's able to score, and obviously he's kicking ass at fielding. So, to me, he's kind of our MVP for the Rockies within our team. I don't want to necessarily say he's MVP of the league. It'd be awesome if they showed the Rockies that kind of love. But, no, I definitely think right now, the way our team looks, he's definitely the best player on our squad who's making
pick
sure
him
that
over
we're getting
Nolan?
outs. I mean, that's tough. It's really tough. But yeah, right now, for
I'd say for sure they're the top 2 players on the team, for sure.
Arenado's lights out too.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
He just, I
seeing
mean,
seeing Story's impact on the defensive side is really impressive. He's taking some action from Arenado, but Arenado still has his own fantastic plays at third. But I don't know.
because I do think Story could become legit 5-tool player if he could get better at running the bases. Because I read on StatCast he's the 6th fastest player in Major League Baseball.
Whew, wow.
He doesn't steal bases though. That just kind of shows you that he doesn't have the confidence on the
Right.
base
Really
pads.
gun it.
Yeah,
Well, he's a pretty big dude too.
he
He's
is.
what,
Yeah.
6'5", 6'6"? So
I don't know how tall he is, but he's a big guy and he's pretty beefy for sure.
So
But
when you're moving that fast and you're that big, sometimes it's scary when you're running
He's
into
6'1".
people. Oh, 6'1"?
Yeah.
Wow. I was thinking this dude's a monster.
So I know DJ
Aaron
is
Judge.
6'6". Aaron Judge.
DJ is 6'6".
Yeah,
Tall.
I know. So if Story can really just fine tune his base running skills, he could be the best player on the Rockies when he gets to that point. But it's hard to dethrone Arenado at this point. He's just so good.
This is the time of the season where it's just so fun to watch the Rockies, and I know we're all keeping just close eyes on this super tight race for the NL West and wild card, of course. With the Broncos, we are officially T-minus 12 hours before training camp starts. Less than a day away. Things kick off tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. over at Dove Valley. And I know every Broncos fan is just itching for some news, some updates, more to sink our teeth into to determine how we feel this season's going to go.
I was going to say good luck on parking if you're trying to go see some summer camp. It's insane over at Dove Valley.
Yeah.
But they renovated the facility.
Patience is a virtue.
I kind of want to go fight through the crowds to see this renovated
I really
place,
do. I would
but-
love if we could. I mean, it would take a miracle for the four of us to be able to go to one together with our psycho schedules. But yeah, I would love to be able to attend a day of training
Can we
camp.
schedule a private tour on an off day?
That'd be great.
Can Case Keenum do the tour for us?
Victory
And
waffles!
Kim make me waffles. I would like Kim to make me some victory waffles, please. The Broncos have actually made some moves this week. So Carlos Henderson, who was a wide receiver we drafted last year. Does anyone know what round we drafted him in?
I think
Not
it was
remember.
We'll look
third.
it up real quick.
We can
Do a little Googling.
keep talking.
But
So he's currently on the reserve did not report list. And we don't have a lot of details about it. The story is he's dealing with family issues, but in watching press conferences today, no one seemed to have a lot of sympathy for that. So I'm not totally convinced that we actually know what's going on. But it definitely seems that his position is up for grabs. And that was just solidified even more by the fact that within this week, the Broncos signed 2 additional wide receivers. The first one being Corey Philly Brown, who last played for the Panthers. He's 26 years old, has 79 career receptions for over 1,000 yards and 7 TDs, and led the NFL in punt return touchdowns, total of 3 in 2014.
move over Isaiah McKenzie.
Oh,
It might be a Corey Brown, Philip Lindsay showdown. I'm not giving up on my
Philip Lindsay.
unrequited Philip Lindsay love. We'll see if he does
Hey,
anything.
he's staying in his parents' house. He's not buying anything yet. He's gonna be living in their basement. So
That's just
like
smart.
true
Fiscal
hometown boy.
responsibility, true hometown boy. I'm so
No,
very hopeful
I was
for
still
him.
living with my parents at his age. So. That's a
Yeah,
smart move.
totally comparable. They also signed Mark Chapman, who was an undrafted rookie. He played for Central Michigan, caught 147 passes for over 2,000 yards and 10 TDs. So he's definitely a bit more unknown. But I've got to say I'm intrigued by Corey Brown, especially as you reacted, Gideon, to the punt return being the highest punt return TDs in 2014. As we all know, that is an area in which we are hurting as a team of the Denver Broncos. Isaiah McKenzie was a wreck last year. So on top of that being intriguing, I think it's incredibly telling regarding Carlos Henderson's future with the Broncos that they went ahead and signed 2 additional wide receivers this week after Henderson was officially put on the did not report list.
Well, Henderson, he was the 3rd round pick last year, per your question.
Thank you.
And Philly Brown was the 1st overall pick in the Canadian Football League, if that means anything. I don't know.
I think college football's better.
Small taters.
Probably. Alabama could probably beat the champions in the CFL.
I don't know, Colorado Buffs might be able to keep the champions of the CFL.
Oh, sassy.
We
No,
love
but
you, Canada.
I think the Broncos are definitely supporting Henderson in whatever he's got to handle. But at the end of the day, the Broncos are still running an organization. They have to have players that are going to show up for camp and, you know, make a effort to having a better team. And regardless of what's going on, I hope everything's okay with his family and
Of
everything.
course, yeah.
But if he's not learning the playbook or he's not working on his steps and catching balls, then this man's not going to be prepared for even the preseason. So they had to bring in some people, and hopefully, was it Corey
Corey Philly Brown.
Corey Philly Brown.
Philly in parentheses, a.k.a. a nickname.
Ah.
Does he like Philly cheesesteaks?
I have no
We're going to
idea.
call this man Philly. All right. I think it's interesting that he came on because now, it definitely is a potential return man instead of being a replacement for Henderson. Henderson got hurt in a preseason game last year, so it's kind of questionable on how he was recovering in the first place. So I think the Broncos made some great decisions, and this should be an interesting training camp to see how everything's going to shape up. I mean, it's very possible neither of these guys even makes the final team.
Oh, yeah.
But, guys got to be out there and running and working and pushing everyone else.
In the league, you have a finite window of time to prove that you're worth keeping around. And I do think Carlos Henderson's window of time is fast expiring, if not expired. I really think that they have moved on from him. I could be totally wrong, but that's just my gut instinct is that this may be the last we hear of Carlos Henderson.
Well, and considering they drafted 2 wide receivers pretty high in this year's draft.
Who are both looked really solid, at least in mandatory minicamp.
Mm-hmm.
Basically got a replacement third round for a third rounder that we're losing, so.
Right.
It just makes you wonder, what the family emergency is. And
it's none of our business, and like Gideon said, we wish him all the best. I hope everything is okay, and I hope everything ends up all right. But a job's a job.
But he's fighting for a job.
Yeah.
Talking about
I mean, I hate
here.
to sound callous, but it's not just football. That's life, Life happens, obviously, and you have to put your priorities first, and family should always be most important. But the NFL is not any other job, It's far more fiercely competitive than anything
world.
We can possibly relate to in terms of our careers. It's just different.
And Henderson's not necessarily at the talent level yet to make sure you're holding a spot on the team for. Right now, I don't think there's a limit on their roster, so they got a whole bunch of dudes, scrubs, stars, everything in between.
Exactly.
But once you get into the end of the preseason, then you got to trim the fat, and you have to have a 55-man roster. And Henderson could have very well been on the bubble prior to his not attending training camp. So I don't know. He's not good enough to hold your breath on him, I guess.
Yeah. But being a third-round pick, I mean, you hope he works out. But the Broncos have like 1 million tight ends and 1 million wide receivers.
We're good.
So, my gut feeling is he's not going to make the team. I mean, we'll see when he comes back.
Do you think we cut him?
If he comes back.
Yeah.
I think he's going to get
I think we'll try to put him on the practice squad. He might get taken by another team. But I don't think he won't be a Bronco this season. I think he'll either be cut, go to another team, or he'll be on the practice squad because he's a third-round talent.
I mean, good news for him. The Broncos always draft really well, so anytime you're given a shot on our team and then end up getting traded, these guys find places elsewhere.
I mean, I have to hardcore disagree with you though. The Broncos do not always draft really well.
How about that Paxton
Talent.
Lynch?
I mean, okay, so we had a quarterback crisis. Okay, we all get that, but it doesn't mean that these guys are not talented. Paxton Lynch is a good football player. Do I think he's a good quarterback? No. He's a good football player. Yeah.
I don't think he's a good football player. I think he's a perfectly fine person. I'm sure he's delightful. But anyway.
Paxton, if you want to play Madden online, hit me up. We can do that.
Slide into those DMs for the gamer tag.
We can't get started on Paxton because I'll just go in a whirlwind of why I think he's awful. Anyway, if you are anything like us, you have a fantasy football draft probably fast approaching. And so we decided to talk a little Broncos fantasy football, breakouts, busts, or sleepers. So just talking through, each of us is going to kind of highlight a specific player that we think, in terms of fantasy football, would either be a breakout player this season, a total bust, or possibly a sleeper. Any volunteers to go first?
Okay, I'll go first. So I'm gonna go with. I guess my breakout would be Emmanuel Sanders.
Interesting.
I know.
He's got to bounce back for sure.
Yeah, because last year he only had. I know he had 3 touchdowns. Oh gosh, I had his PPR points pulled up, and it was only, I think it was like 110 points.
It was rough. I had him in 2 leagues.
Yeah, which is like,
He was
what is that? In
disappointing.
16 games, like 7 points per game.
Yeah.
But
Really, really underdelivered.
yeah, and I looked up the average draft position for him on Fantasy Pros, and he's at 90, which in a 10-team league, that's the 9th round. And that's in PPR too, where wide receivers are always boosted in PPR. But if you look at his quarterbacks last year, he had Brock, the Brocket Launcher, Paxton
Brock
Lynch,
Lobster! Jigs.
Paxton Lynch, and Trev. And
I still love you, Trevor.
I'm pretty sure if you combine all of those
Found the
3
job.
guys that are best talents together, you're still not going to have Case Keenum. So,
With their powers combined,
Yes.
they
So-
still suck.
So you're giving Sanders a nice bump.
Yeah, and he
his
had-
production.
That's a good argument, though, babe. That
so
makes
if
sense.
you look at the Broncos last year, who were the 2 best receivers, including running backs, tight ends, wide receivers?
I don't
DT,
want
Emmanuel
this is
Sanders,
like
right?
a
I feel like
trick
a trick
question.
question.
Right now, Emmanuel
It's a trap.
Sanders and DT, and who's after that?
CJ?
Exactly.
Cody
Oh,
Latimer.
I got it.
Well, on Emmanuel Sanders, he had less than 100 targets last year.
That's my
That
There's
sucks.
really only 2 targets you could throw to on the
And
Broncos.
they're both double.
And that's a
double
man
covered.
who used to try to hit 100 receptions
exactly.
every year. And not even 100 targets. That's
That's brutal.
That's painful.
Emmanuel Sanders is going to get at least, I would say, 120, 130 targets. So he could reach 90 receptions this year.
And that's the cool part is Case Keenum isn't like Brock or Paxton where he just sits in the pocket and tries to throw the deep ball. He loves going to his second and third options. He's perfectly fine with the check down, and he doesn't look for the pretty play. He just looks to make the right play, and his football IQ is off the charts is when it comes to being under pressure, maintaining his presence within the pocket, and putting the ball in the right place rather than trying to make an exceptional play.
Key in
He's
points to
gonna
the
make
Minnesota
this-
Miracle.
Yep.
Boo.
Yeah,
I mean,
Diggs wasn't his first option.
No.
Yeah.
He was like his
and
third option.
there was the line was breaking down.
Oh.
He just put it up.
And magic was made. Another sports moment where I cried like a baby. My whole family's from Minnesota. I cried for them out of joy. In a bar.
And then you cried again when we signed Case.
I mean, that was
did.
that was
More
one of the
tears of
play-
joy.
If you're noticing a theme, I cry over happy sports moments. Frequently.
Like Charlie
That
Blackman's
was-
walk-off homer.
See, that one didn't
And
make me
Trevor
cry. It
Stories.
just made me laugh because
Wow.
he like jumped into the Gatorade like a mermaid.
It's like,
Brilliantly
splash me.
hilarious.
I am victorious.
But I think you make so many good points as to why Sanders could have a really successful year in fantasy.
Well, and like we all know, Emmanuel Sanders is really good, but the fact that his average draft position is 90, I think that's ridiculous, considering the quarterback play last year.
You're also a Broncos fan.
And I also know the Broncos are the best team in the world. So
Yes.
There you go, folks. Not biased
So-
at all.
If you're playing in your fantasy league, just draft all Broncos if possible.
yes, Brandon McManus, number 1 overall.
Go for it.
BMAC.
Pro tip.
So I know, like that's not really breakout player. Just I was shocked at his average draft position.
More like a bounce back player.
Bounce back
Exactly.
I like
Add
that.
it to the title.
Right.
Breakouts, bust, sleepers, and bounce backs. All right, who's next?
I guess I will go. My choice is with Demaryius Thomas. I'm going to go opposite direction. Similar to Emmanuel Sanders, he tapered off in his production for fantasy last year compared to what he generally produced. I know in 2016 he didn't have the best year either, and Sanders had a better year. I don't have their fantasy numbers in front of me right now, unfortunately. But in my opinion, I think Demaryius Thomas is either going to maintain the same production that he had from last year or definitely go down. I think Cortland Sutton is going to be a topic of discussion regarding Thomas's positioning on the team. I think Thomas still retained his starting position, but after we see what Cortland Sutton can do, I think the Broncos are going to give him a lot more looks on the field. And with Jake Butt being healthy, Case Keenum's got a lot of options to be placing the ball not in Demaryius Thomas' hands. And he's shown that he's not super duper reliable in the past as well. He's had a lot of drops, and
well, he's also traditionally played better with better quarterbacks.
Yes,
He's put more effort into it. Peyton, he had the lull with Tebow, had a couple good plays.
Yeah.
Came back with Peyton and played well.
Everyone came back with Peyton.
But that's what Peyton does, raises the game. But it dropped off.
Brock, it's not pretty.
Peyton made Julius Thomas look good.
No, for sure.
That's how good Peyton Manning is.
Yeah.
But when you have
Papa John
a quarterback like that throwing you the ball, you're going to be more inclined to make that extra effort.
I sure hope so. But regarding fantasy
but definitely
football,
some young bloods.
Thomas is definitely not going to be anything spectacular. I don't think he should be drafted in.
You think top 20 wide receiver?
5. I wouldn't give him top 20. I would draft Sanders over.
We're talking
DT.
PPR, right?
Yeah.
PPR. Okay. Yeah, I'd draft Sanders.
Would you take Stephon Diggs over DT?
Yes.
Okay.
He's got Kirk Cousins, so we'll see what happens over there. But yeah, Diggs for sure. Diggs' production last year was better than DT's.
But Diggs had Case Keenum thrown to him.
I mean, and so much though with DT will be determined by the chemistry. If he has incredible stellar chemistry with Case Keenum, he could have a massive year and just go off. But if it's anything less than stellar chemistry, if it's okay chemistry, if it's fine, if it's adequate, I'm with you, Gid. I think we're gonna see a decrease in his performance in terms of fantasy.
I think he's teetering in the over statement for his production. Overrated? There we go.
It's like he's still trying to ride his own coattails.
Like, definitely overrated. Well, teetering into the overrated realm of conversation.
He's dancing that dance, yeah.
He's going to have a great year if he wants to be considered a threat to defensive backs. He's a big body, and he can definitely make some moves when the ball's in his hands. But I think a focus for him during training camp should be catching the ball. He's had a lot of opportunities with, like you guys said, mediocre quarterbacks, but they have placed the ball in his hands, and he's failed to catch the ball on multiple occasions.
When it's always at big moments when he drops the ball.
And that's what's most heartbreaking. And those are boomer bust plays for fantasy production as well, because if he's
100%.
dropping, a 40-yard bomb, that's 4 points plus, either a half point or a full point if you're playing PPR. And in a competitive fantasy league, you might only be winning your games by 2 or 3 points. So that could be the difference between winning and losing, are those clutch plays that DT is like a 50-50 coin toss, essentially.
Yeah,
right.
he's such a big target, though, that I feel like when things are rough, quarterbacks just throw it to him because he's such a big target.
It's definitely a first down machine. Like, run 10 yards, turn around, and put it in a place where he can get it. And again, he's got to catch it.
Right? Like, I agree with you. Like, he probably won't be on any of my fantasy teams because I won't take him in. I might take him in the late 4th round, but anything earlier than that, I'm not going to take him. And since we're all Broncos fans, I'm sure a lot of people will take him in the 2nd or 3rd round.
Take him early, without fail. Miles, thoughts?
On DT or my...
Oh, no, your pick.
Okay.
Thoughts on your person you would like to discuss?
So, we already had a breakout or bounce back.
Bounce back, added a category.
I'm going to go with the sleeper. I really think that with some young blood that we got drafted in this last draft, Royce Freeman is going to be one of the bigger sleepers on our team. We just got Valdir from the Cardinals shoring up our right tackle position, which is going to be interesting because most of his career he's played left tackle. He played a little bit at right tackle last year, but for the most part he's been left tackle. But Royce Freeman, his production at Oregon was high level with high volume. We put him in at the starting running back position. We don't have any veteran backs. We've got third year Booker and second year Henderson.
Yeah.
As our quote unquote veterans.
Yeah.
Might as well let a young guy just churn it out.
Yeah, Booker proved that he's a pretty good back as far as a third down back with his pass blocking production, as well as rollouts on that broken play. But I think Royce Freeman, with shoring up our offensive line a little bit more, is definitely going to add more production on the running game, which is definitely needed. We saw how Case was in Minnesota with the running game that they had with Dalvin Cook last year. They were doing a great job. We get something running downhill between the tackles.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
think
He have a
you
huge
think he
year.
averages over 4 yards a carry?
Ooh.
I think so. He thrives in a zone blocking scheme, which we all know Denver loves to run. It was a staple of our Super Bowl runs.
Indeed.
How many
With
carries
TD.
do you think he's going to get this year? So you look at Alvin Kamara, he got, I think it was 120 carries last year. He's also more of a receiving back. I don't think Royce Freeman is a receiving back.
He's your workhorse for sure.
He'll catch it for sure, but he's definitely going to be more of the workhorse between the tackles. Very broad stroke comparison. I could see him being similar to a Marshawn Lynch.
You can get
rough running through the tackles.
Yeah,
break tackles. I think 200 is possible.
250?
Okay.
I definitely could see if he starts going off. I would be surprised if he's not. I don't know.
Maybe he'll be like our Kareem Hunt.
That would be fantastic.
That'd be great.
He was
big
under
hope.
the radar for the Chiefs, and then boom, all of a sudden he's putting up 30-point fantasy games.
I do think he has the most upside as far as fantasy goes for the Broncos.
I think the biggest thing with him, he definitely does have the upside. But I think the big thing with him is just how consistent he's been in college. Granted, he did have the injury, but he was consistent. He was putting numbers up. Now, he may not bust out a run and outrun everyone like Kareem Hunt, but he gets 15, 20 carries a game, busts 100, touchdown or two. I can see him averaging 15 to 20 points a game.
Which is huge.
Fantasy-wise.
Yeah.
Where do you
Touchdowns!
Where do you think you would draft him? Would you take him over Jerick McKinnon or
That's a good
Mark
question.
Ingram, Carlos Hyde?
I probably would take him over Carlos Hyde, just given age.
Yeah.
I definitely think that I'd say top 20 back for sure, maybe top 15.
So round 4, round 5.
Wow.
Probably.
Oh no, top 15 back. That's.
That's tough,
round
especially in a PPR.
3.
Yeah, round 3.
Especially in a PPR.
Yes.
That's tough.
Running backs are gold.
They are gold, yeah.
They are golden.
Yes. And that's why he's my sleeper.
All right. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to
We'll
go with a breakout. Mr. Jonathan Jake Dwayne Butt. I learned that was his full name today.
Jake Butt.
Jake Butt. I think I'm going to predict that Jake Butt is going to be a major target for Case Keenum. And he really, I was doing some research today on his production in college, and he was just so consistent. His freshman year, first season with Michigan, he had 20 receptions for 235 yards and 2 touchdowns. Sophomore year, he had 21 receptions for 211 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Junior year, 51 catches for 654 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. And that was while starting all 13 games. And then during his senior year, he was the second leading receiver on the team with 43 receptions for 518 yards and 4 touchdowns, including 29 of those catches that netted a first down. I feel like he's got an endless pool of potential to be one of Case's favorites.
Well, don't forget last year Kyle Rudolph tied for the lead in Minnesota for 8 touchdowns with Stephon Diggs as their tight end and was third on the team in receiving yards.
Yep. The tight end position, I think you can never count out to be really, really up there in terms of producing a lot of receptions and therefore obviously putting up a lot of points in fantasy. I also think he's unknown enough that you could get him a little bit later in the draft and see a lot of production from him. So that's who I'm going with as my breakout of Broncos in terms of fantasy.
So where would you take him?
Would you take him over Kyle Rudolph?
Oof.
That's really hard.
Kyle Rudolph is usually like a top
Kyle
7
Rudolph
tight
is
end.
up there, yeah.
But what do you think he's going to be like a top 7 tight end?
Top 10.
Outside of like Gronk and Greg
and
Olsen.
Kelsey.
Well, Gronk, Greg Olsen, and this year maybe not even Kelsey because
I'd say Kelsey drops down to top 5.
Well, I think
Mahomes
the top 3 probably have to be Gronk, Kelsey, and Ertz this year.
Ertz. Never count out Ertz. That guy's money.
But outside of that, tight ends don't start going off the board until about the 6th round. So you might be able to get away with 6th, 7th round for Jake Butt.
Especially if you're
even later than that.
Not
probably.
in Colorado,
8th?
If you're happening to listen
Probably.
to this. If you're drafting with a bunch of non-Broncos fans, you can probably snag Jake Butt in like the 9th or the 10th.
Or
just because
filling
he's
out,
unknown.
filling out your bench.
Last year I got Delaney Walker in the 8th round.
That was stupid. I can't believe that happened.
That was amazing.
Yeah, because the tight end position is weird. That there's those really coveted kind of 2 or 3, maybe 4 that people really go for in PPR leagues early, and then it kind of is silent for a while before another tight end is drafted.
I mean, wide receivers are so deep.
Right.
Everyone wants 2 solid quarterbacks, so you got something on the bye week.
Got something to rely on.
And you can always find a free agent wide receiver. Like people go crazy for wide receiver.
Yeah.
And that's why I personally, giving away a little bit of my draft strategy, I always focus on trying to get a tight end in my first 3 rounds, even if it's not one of those coveted ones that people are obsessed with, obviously, like Gronk, Kelsey, Ertz, that are the guys, Greg Olsen. Because at the end of the day, your tight end can kind of make or break a lot of your weeks. And it's usually by 3-4 points. If you have a tight end putting up 8 points a week versus a tight end putting up 12 points a week, it makes a difference, especially if you're in a really competitive league. So it all obviously depends on how things are shaking out. People get weird in drafts and start freaking out and taking defenses early and upsetting the general flow of how
Always
things are
take the Broncos
supposed to go.
Well, and tight ends are tough just because, like, unless you have Gronk or Kelsey, like, you're really relying on the touchdowns. Because usually tight ends, they'll get 4 receptions a game, 40 yards. But if they get that touchdown, it's like,
great game.
Huge.
Yeah.
And some tight ends are lucky to even get 4 targets.
Yeah.
But a lot of times,
especially
4
a lot of
targets,
blocking
1
tight
catch, and a touchdown. That 1 catch was for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Last year, what I went the route for was the narrative on my tight ends. I didn't really worry about having a stud tight end. I went heavy on my running backs and wide receivers. But I took the narrative route, and Antonio Gates was 1 touchdown away from having the record to himself outside of Tony Gonzalez for most touchdowns in a career for a tight end. And sure enough, Antonio Gates figured that he wasn't hurt per the usual, and Phillip Rivers pitched him a touchdown.
Yep.
And got the touchdown, and then I dropped his butt on the waiver wire and went to go find another tight end.
There you go. That's why I think, like, Jimmy Graham, he's probably gonna have a huge year. Like
I hope he has a huge year.
I think he's gonna average like 3 receptions a game, but he is Aaron Rodgers' go-to,
Especially with Jordy gone now.
Like he might get 12 touchdowns this year.
Well, he had such a disappointing season with the Seahawks.
Yes.
And was it 2 seasons? Time's flying
I
by.
think 2 seasons. Yeah.
Yes.
I think so.
But I think he got hurt in the first season that he played with the Seahawks.
I don't
remember.
Yeah, something like
Sometimes these football seasons all mesh together in my brain, and it's all in there some way or form. But I hope Jimmy Graham can definitely have a huge bounce back year, and Aaron Rodgers has definitely needed a solid tight end ever since they lost Jermichael Finley.
Right. I mean, Jared Cook wasn't that guy. Like I thought he would be that guy, but he definitely wasn't.
Wah wah.
Yeah.
This has got me super excited for fantasy football.
Football is back.
More importantly, real football to return. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This has been episode 6 of 5280 Film Room, and we will hit you guys all up in a week or so. Thanks again for listening. You can shoot us up on email at 5280filmroom@gmail.com. We would especially love if you have any questions for us or specific things you'd like us to talk about. That would be fantastic. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And we will talk to you guys soon, probably with a bit more fantasy, as well as our usual update on the Colorado Rockies. Catch you later.
Toodles.
Peace.